Mr. Walid Muallim, Minister of Expatriates and Foreign Affairs, starts a visit to Moscow today. Gatilov says that Moscow rejects foreign prescriptions to solve the crisis in Syria and stresses respect of Syria's sovereignty. And Syria celebrates World Health Day and honors the medical employees caring for old people. Good afternoon, this is News in English from the Syrian Arab Television in Damascus. Foreign Affairs and Expatriates Minister Walid Muallim visits today Moscow accompanied with an official delegation. Al-Muallim is scheduled to hold talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov on bilateral relations and the latest developments related to the mission of the UN envoy to Syria. Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia, Gennady Gatilov, pointed out that Moscow was considering the possibility of sending representatives to work within the mission of the UN observers in Syria. In a speech addressed to the conference in the University of International Relations in Moscow, he said that Russia was working actively with Damascus to start the process of settlement in Syria as soon as possible. He asserted that the attempts to impose a foreign solution would only lead to the escalation of tension and asserted that everything should be based on respecting Syria's sovereignty. Mr. Gatilov said Russia opposed the extensive interpretations of the Security Council resolutions and the attempts to impose foreign prescriptions to solve the crisis in Syria. In a related context, the Ministry of Expatriates and Foreign Affairs affirmed that it accepted the mission and plan of the international envoy Kofi Annan after he asserted that his mission proceeds from respecting Syria's sovereignty and that he would work to stop all forms of violence, including the disarming of terrorist gangs and the start of a comprehensive national dialogue with all spectrums of the Syrian opposition.
The ministry spokesman Dr. Jihad Maqdisi pointed out that Syria took several steps to show good intention. Annan's presentations to the Security Council were interpreted as if Syria affirmed that it would withdraw its forces from the cities and their neighborhoods by April 10th. This interpretation is wrong, since Annan has not given the Syrian government written guarantees about the acceptance of the terrorist gangs to stop all violence and the readiness to surrender their weapons. Guarantees are also required that the governments of Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey would stop financing and arming those gangs. The statement of the Syrian Foreign Ministry affirmed that Syria would never repeat what happened during the presence of the Arab observers because the armed terrorist gangs utilized the exit of the Syrian armed forces from the cities to reorganize and rearm their gangs. They occupied whole neighborhoods and carried out crimes of murder, abduction and sabotage of public and private property. This obliged our armed forces to intervene in response to the calls of our citizens to restore normal, safe life to our cities. The ministry concluded by asserting that Syria was ready to continue to cooperate with Mr. Annan and to inform him of its steps to carry out his plan, hoping to obtain documented guarantees against its disruption of Annan's mission for any misinterpretation of Syria's attitude.
China called upon the Syrian parties to respect their pledges to keep a ceasefire and to withdraw the military presence from the cities, within the context of the plan of the international envoy Kofi Annan to settle the crisis. The spokesman of the Chinese Foreign Ministry Li Weimin said that China called upon the Syrian government and the parties concerned in Syria to respect those pledges. News security forces headed for the area of As-Sukhari in Aleppo in order to protect a number of demonstrators as their area witnessed attacks on such gatherings in order to accuse security forces of such attacks. A source in the governorate said that security forces came under fire from all directions when they reached the area. The fire came from within the ranks of the gathering people and led to the death of 9 security men, a first lieutenant, 1 civilian citizen, and the wounding of 11 security men and 2 civilian citizens. The Iranian consul in Syria, Abdulmajid Kamjo, denied that any Iranian passengers were on board the bus that was attacked on the Syrian-Lebanese borders. News reports indicated that the bus was carrying Lebanese and Syrian citizens when it was attacked by a terrorist group at a Jusiya crossing point at the border.
The bus was carrying Lebanese citizens heading to Iraq across Syrian territory. The terrorists targeted the bus with a mortar missile that hit the crossing point. This attack led to the death of 6 Syrians, 1 Lebanese old man, and the wounding of 14 victims, 9 of them Syrians.
The blast occurred at the crossing point. A rocket hit the inside of the building, and I found myself here.
While we were at the crossing points, the security men were checking our passports. Rockets were launched from the orchards and they hit right in front of us.
I drive a vehicle to carry passengers. As we arrived at the Syrian crossing point, and I had many passengers, we felt the explosion.
These criminals open fire indiscriminately in order to kill and shed more blood, to feed their savage terrorist instincts supported by foreign, regional, and Arab states.
The Bahraini authorities refused to admit the death of a Bahraini youth with live bullets on March 13th, although the Interior Ministry admitted that he was shot. The family of the victim refused to receive his body to bury it. However, his sister said the family would receive the body at once if the death certificate were compatible with the report of the doctor who examined the body. Al-Wifaq Society, the largest opposition party in Bahrain, announced that the young man Ahmad Ismail was killed by a militia affiliated to the Bahraini authorities in Manama. The gas pipeline stretching from Egypt to Israel and Jordan was targeted by a new explosion, the 14th of its kind since last February. Egyptian security forces said the explosion took place in northern Sinai at the entrance of the city of Al-Arish. The Ministry of Health, in cooperation with the World Health Organization, WHO, yesterday held a festivity on the occasion of the World Health Day at Dar al-Karama for the elderly in Damascus.
The World Health Day Festival was held under the title Good Health Can Add Life to Years, focusing on issues related to elderly health and aging. Minister of Health Dr. Wa'il Halaqi said that the Syrian constitution concentrated on the importance of providing health care for all citizens, including the elderly people. He underlined the necessity of cooperation with the concerned ministries and the WHO to improve healthcare services provided for the elderly. For his part, resident representative of the World Health Organization in Syria, Ibrahim Beit al-Mal, hailed the efforts of the Syrian government and the Ministry of Health exerted to provide the best health care for the elderly people. World Health Organization representative indicated that the number of the elderly who cannot take care of themselves is expected to rise fourfold by the year 2050 in the developing countries. A number of the elderly living at Dar al-Karami for the elderly and the medical staff there were honored during the festival.
Hoping that all viewers will enjoy a long and prosperous life. This ends our bulletin for today. For more news, log on to our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now over to Khalid Saqabani with the latest in economy.